Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope by grace you are well. This is Candace. I'm here today and with Dr. Joe. We are here to discuss the usual topic that we've been talking about, obtaining relationship for success. But today we are really going to zoom in and focus on how we can manage our daily relationships. It could be intimate, it could be a friendship, whatever relationship you can think of. Today is the day that you want to be here. Stay tuned for how you can properly manage it to succeed. God bless you, and I hope you are ready as I am. Dr. Joe?
Yes, thank you so much, Sister Candice, for hosting us again. Dear listeners, welcome once again to Hour of Healing. It is our prayer and our desire to be able to bring you healing wherever you are in your walk of life. Like Sister Candice said, today we are honing in on managing relationships for success, managing relationships. And the reason is because, Sister Candice, we have been talking about obtaining relationships for success since the beginning of the year.
Right.
We have also been talking about things that can make us successful. But as we have already said, relationships are so important when it comes to the area of success.
Mhm.
However, we live in a day and age that I believe that our inability to manage relationships has cost so many dearly. Mr. Candice, we live in the era of social media. And so, whereas many, or some, I should say, have used this platform as a way to be able to access their strategic relationships and be
Mhm.
able to be lifted through this platform,
Mhm.
unfortunately, many have lost the ability to maintain relationships because of social media. And
Right.
as we talk today, I pray for grace to be able to take our listeners through the various things that we have learned from our generation and the younger generation, and how we will be able to manage our relationships so that we don't only have temporal relationships that will help our success go, but rather maintain them for longevity of impact.
And that is exciting. You know, I want us to dive more into social media aspect of how it has negatively, I should say, impacted our relationship, because that is what will help us get the full picture of how we can properly manage our relationship. So how has social media, or I would say electronics basically, how has these things affected our relationships? If you can put more light and be more specific, so we will know the area in which we are going to, so that people can really target these areas to, improve in that specific part of their life when it comes to relationships. So, what in
Yeah,
social media?
yeah. So certainly, and it's one thing to just talk about social media and another to talk about the internet as a whole. But
Right.
we will try to certainly put those together because when we talk about maintaining relationships, we
Hmm.
live in an era where everybody, because of the accessibility, like I said, of social media, wants to be able to put themselves out there. And
Right.
so, one thing that I noticed with our young generation is you have a young person who somebody has been a strategic help for. Somebody
Hmm.
has been a genuine helper in his or her life.
Hmm.
Let's say someone is supporting them financially. Now,
Hmm.
I'm supporting you financially, but then I go on these social media platforms and I see you with pictures of these cars and these places and clothes and things, expensive gadgets that even I, the one sponsoring you or supporting you,
Right.
have. It's not that I can't afford them, but I don't see the value in getting them. And then they sit down and they think about what they are doing to help, and they say, "Why am I spending so much on this person?" And they seem to be mishandling it. We will
Mm-hmm.
talk more about this when we go into the specifics of how we manage relationships. But this is just a kind of a brief idea of what we see and what we, by the grace of God, have been able to learn. That there are so many people today. Mr. Ken, this is very interesting because there is this notion of visibility. That
Okay.
everybody wants to be visible, everybody wants to be
So,
recognized. And the problem with visibility is that if you don't have the grace for visibility, you have to do things that, I'm sorry to say, sometimes are untrue in order to gain that visibility. And
right.
so people show, they portray themselves on these social media platforms as though they have much, but they really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even worse now when, because of these photo shoot or these things that they use to beautify pictures and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, I once saw a social media post of someone, a friend of mine, and I couldn't recognize her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call her and I'm like, oh my goodness, you have really changed. And she's like, "Oh no, I'm still the same person." And I'm like, "Okay, send me a picture of you right now." They sent me a picture, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is a
Right.
completely different person."
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying that being on these platforms are bad or anything like that. I mean, I'm somebody, if I want to call a spade, I'll call it. But these are some of the little things. And like I said, as we go through our conversations, I will specifically talk about some of the things that we do with these platforms that unfortunately does go a long way to hurt our ability to maintain relationships.
And Dr. Joe, it's funny you brought up the filter on social media because it's I would say that it's deceiving also. In we are talking about managing relationship, and you've seen stories or instances where people thought the girl or the person they are attracted to, they see them in person and it's like a total different person that they
Mm,
are seeing physically, and that has caused there's a deception. You're starting off a relationship with a lie, basically. So that
mm,
right there is hurting the relationship that is yet to even happen. And we look at our homes also. We have kids on these social medias, and it's taken away the time that back in the days there would be that time would be probably for the family time or something. But
mhm.
now, like, social media is so occupying these kids or these generations time that is harming our relationship, father and daughter, mother and son, whatever. That family bonding, now it's not that you have a family dinner and everybody sitting there will be on their phone or doing something. So it's something that we have to really, really keen on because it can affect our relationship. And we are here to talk about managing it. So, what is managing relationships?
Yeah, so uh, 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 is managing relationships is actually very key because, like, we even already dive into the whole social media aspect because I mentioned it in the intro. But a lot of our generation have not mastered or have not learned the ability to manage, to maintain relationships. And so for you to be able to maintain relationships, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to manage it well. And when
Mm-hmm.
I talk about managing relationship, really, is you working the relationship in a way that it favors not just you but also the person that you are in relationship with.
Right.
And that is very key because if you want to maintain a relationship but you don't manage both parties, you are setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. There are so
Mm-hmm.
many things that goes into being able to maintain a relationship, but you manage things by knowing the temperament of those specific things that you are working on. So, for you to be able to get to the place where you are maintaining a relationship, you need to know the temperament of that relationship. That
Mm-hmm.
is one of the things that you need to manage. You need
Mm-hmm.
to manage. the inputs and the outputs of that relationship, what comes into the relationship, what goes out of the relationship. These are all things that play a very key role. It's so important, and I thought about this, that multi-million and multi-billion corporations in here in the United States
Hmm.
spend millions of dollars each and every day managing their relationship with their customers.
Right.
And then they spend other millions of dollars making commercials to be able to maintain the people that are already their customers. They don't just manage the
Yeah.
day-to-day interaction or product that they give in their customers.
Right.
They also spend millions of dollars maintaining those customers. That's
Yeah.
how important it is, because if you do not manage, let's say you are a fast food restaurant, if you do not
Hmm.
manage your relationship with your customers, the chances are they will be displeased, and so they will leave. If they leave,
Hmm.
you did not only fail to manage them, you also fail to maintain them. And
Right.
that, in the long run, affects your bottom line. You know, not too long ago, I was uh, I think I was watching a sports show, and there was a panel of five people, and one of the people on the panel was talking about a sports game, but then she decided to use marriage as the example. Whatever situation she was talking about, she equates it to marriage and says, "Well, that's why a lot of marriages don't succeed, because if I come into a marriage and I wake up in the morning and I realize it's not what I thought it was, I'm out."
Out.
And this is somebody who has a media platform, and that's why I brought the social media aspect. But
Yeah.
it's not just
Sure.
social media, has a media platform. And so this person saying that, oh, you wake up in the morning and you realize, oh, the guy is not as rich as you thought he was, you out. And I'm sitting there and I say, she missed the point completely. But that is the society we live in, that we
Yes.
don't want to spend the time and the effort to manage the things that we have, the relationships that we have. And
Hmm.
so we get to a place where maintaining those relationships has become so difficult because we're not managing it well. Like in marriage, you're not managing your emotions, and you're not managing the emotions of your partner. And so,
Yes.
how are you going to be able to maintain that marriage?
That
In, in,
relationship.
in,
Right.
in that help relationship that you have been able to form, that strategic relationship, you're not managing what you are contributing to that relationship. And we will talk a bit more about it when I talk about gratitude and things like that. You're not managing what you're bringing into it. You've taken, some people have taken the relationships of help that they have as a dumpster, that they
Mm.
dump all their emotions in there, or they dump all their needs in there, and that's it. That's all they
Mm.
do. If you
Mm.
don't manage what you contribute to any strategic relationship, my dear
Right.
listener, you're setting yourself up to not
Mm.
be able to maintain that
Mm.
relationship. And if you
Mm.
cannot maintain that relationship, as we will find out, it will cost you dearly down the line.
Dr. Joy is very powerful, and I hope viewers, you are really listening to this because it's speaking to me, and I hope it's speaking to you as well. It's very powerful with the analogy you made with how organizations they work so hard and to get customers, but when they get them, they don't just forget about it. They really like it's like a keen thing. They consciously do all they can to keep what they've got. But when it comes to relationship, I don't think it's the same concept. And it's so powerful how you brought it in. Because in our society or in our generation, I would say because of the same social media with what we are talking about, the image is to get a partner, to get somebody to, but then what? Then what after I've gotten it, it's not discussed more often. The work that is required. And I'm at a stage in my life where I'm realizing that things are an issue when we see when the problem is coming from us. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm.
If I don't know how to manage myself well, whatever someone is saying to me can get me riled up. It can trigger me. It can make me upset. To make that person seem as if whatever they said was an
Was
attack,
wrong.
was
Yes.
wrong, or a criticism, but I'm realizing if I can just shift my mindset and fix myself, they don't have that power. And
Mm.
that is how we can manage. But now it's like you work on yourself. You need to work on this. You need to, but I'm telling you, if a man can train a lion or a tiger or a snake and live with them for a certain amount of time, I believe that if we can manage ourselves also in a certain way, we can live with anyone, literally. I think we have that. We can literally live with anyone. Like we have that. It's about how far you are willing to go to manage yourself to be able
Absolutely.
to tolerate or live with someone. So I just thought of bringing that in. But very powerful how you brought the analogy with the organization and how they're very conscious about their customers, but we are not conscious about our partners. But
Mm.
we want to talk about how we can obtain these relationships. So, Dr. Joy, if you can pick up on that, how do we obtain our relationships?
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I believe we did quite a section on this when we talk about romantic relationships in season one. And so I will certainly refer our audience to certainly listen to those podcasts if you are interested in relationships from a marital or a marriage aspect. For the purpose of our discussion, we will focus on the success. Obtaining relationships for success, and it's very similar, but it's not the same, because like I said, that every help that we need in life comes from God, but they come through men. And
Yeah.
so if all the help we need will come through men, then our ability to be able to recognize that we need men in life is very important. Some people go through life thinking they don't need anyone, and I think that's a dire mistake, because
Mm-hmm.
for you to be able to obtain relationships for success, you first have to realize the importance of men. Remember
Mm-hmm.
when we talked about obtaining help, I gave an example of two men who were both sick with debilitating diseases, and both of them at some point, based on scripture, had
Mm-hmm.
help. They
Mm.
had the help of men at some point, but only one was able to have the help of men till he got his healing. The other one ended up spending 38 years waiting for
For
something that
someone,
was not coming. And
right?
so realizing that you need men in your life, in your career, is
Yes,
very
sir.
important. Now, once you realize that you need men, and when I say men, I want our listeners to understand that I mean mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So both male and female. Once you realize that, then it follows how you will be able to obtain a relationship with them, because not all relationships are constructed the same. And so, for you to be able to obtain a relationship, um, let's say with someone that you see day to day at your work, is very, very different from how you will obtain a relationship from someone that you barely see once in a while.
Okay. Right.
And so some of the things that we do is you put yourself in a position where you know the help that you will need from them.
Mm.
If you don't realize what help you will need from a relationship, but you jump into finding the relationship first, chances of you making an error is very high.
Okay. Okay.
And so you have to get yourself to the place where you know what you need from that relationship. And again, we're not talking about marriage here. Marriage as a partnership is something we delved into at length. The other thing is, you have to realize that we live in an era where I would say being superficial is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to build relationships that will impact your success, superficiality doesn't count.
No.
You need genuineness in order to obtain
Mm.
relationships for success.
True.
Without being genuine, so all these fluffy things that we do on our Instagrams and our Facebooks, forget about those.
Mm.
You know, I always say, Sister Candice, that help is available. Help
Mm-hmm.
truly is available. But because of the way society has been constructed and how some people have been hurt and others have been destroyed by their willingness to help, it's very difficult if you're not genuine to actually get genuine help.
That's true.
We live in a time and an era, Sister Candice, that some people, in their effort to help others, ended up in the court of law. So most people are, I don't want to use the word afraid because I think that's a very heavy, but most people are hesitant to give help because they know that if the person they are going to help is not genuine, they are putting their life and their
Arrested.
reputation and their resources at stake.
But how do you even know?
And that is where you being genuine about the need that you have is important. Because when you are genuine about your need, then you is able for the helper to realize the realness of what you need. And so they are able to give that. You
Mhm.
know, I always talk about humility because I think humility is so important when it comes to being able to obtain a relationship and also maintain the relationship. And we will talk about it in both spheres.
Aspects.
But when you read scripture, what does it say? It says, God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. That is so powerful to me because a lot of the help that we need in life,
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, we need grace for because it's not ordinary. It's not natural for
No.
someone to see you and say, you know what? I care about your education, and so I'm going to invest
Response.
$1 million into your education. It's not natural. And if something is not natural, then it has to be supernatural.
Right.
So we need grace to be able to obtain help.
Mm-hmm.
And grace is obtained through humility,
Mm-hmm.
according to the book of James. I know whenever you talk about grace, Christian listeners talk about the unmerited favor of God and all those things. Yes, there is a place and there is a truth to that. But I submit to you, my dear listener, grace is not unidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Grace is not unidimensional. Grace is multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you read Paul's epistles, he talks about measures of faith that we obtain through grace. In Romans, he talks about the giftings that we have that is made available to us through our level of grace. And so grace is multidimensional. You need
Mm-hmm.
grace to obtain the help of men.
Yes.
Not everyone who comes your way has a genuine intent to help you.
Nope.
And so that brings us to our next point in obtaining help, and that is doing your homework.
Mm.
Don't have an everything goes mentality when you are serious about obtaining genuine help for success. Dear listener, if you have anything goes mentality, you will be deceived. We live in a time where deception is at an all-time high. And I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about deception because somebody lied to you here and there. No, people are being deceived and losing thousands of dollars
Yes,
each and every
big
day
time. Yep, big time.
because they think that, oh, this person that I've seen, this person that I'm chatting with, this person that I'm communicating with on my video game has resources that will be able to help me. I have friends, Sister Candace, who they talk about, oh, I have a connection, I have a friend who has connections.
Mhm.
One thing that I believe that the Lord told me one time during a moment of prayer, He said, I am your connection. And
Yep,
since that time, trying to find anyone or build any relationship with someone with the hope that that person has a connection went out of my life, because I realized that no matter what people say, if they are not resources themselves, be careful.
yeah.
Be careful of connection men, I should say. But and we do have listeners in Africa, in parts of Africa. So I should say this, Sister Candice, because I think that is even more so prevalent in
That side of the
some of
world.
our African continents than it is here. But being doing your homework will put you in a position where you can, to some extent, wean out people or relationships that will not impact your success. And at the end of the day, if you are able to do that, I think that will help you get to the place where not only are you able to form or get relationships the right way, but also it will put you in a position to be able to maintain them.
And Dr. Joe, this is kind of like when we say you have to love yourself before you can love someone, or
Mm,
you can give love to someone. Because if I'm listening to you carefully, I'll say that it's like we have to know what we need. We have to know our lack. We have to know what strengths we need in other people, because that's the only way we can attract the right relationships or the right helps. Because, like what you said, if everything goes, you may be getting something you already have, or
absolutely.
something you already have access to, and that's not really going to be helpful or genuine in the long run, because you realize that person is irrelevant, or you
Mm,
probably don't even need them, and you discredit the value of them in your life, because what they are trying to do to help, you can do also. So
mm,
what do you bring to this table, so it's something I feel like we have to keep note of, to know what we need, to know
absolutely.
what our weaknesses. So when these relationships are coming, or if we are looking out for relationships, we have to seek out for someone that can fill these aspects of us to make us whole. And
Mm,
again, I'm not talking about marriage. Regular
absolutely.
relationships, you need someone that will make you whole. Friendships in family, you need someone that will make you whole. If you can't speak, don't go looking for someone that cannot speak.
Mm, mm,
Biblically, in the case of Moses, God tagged Aaron
right.
along with him. God planned a backup. You know, Aaron was a backup, but he knew he will equip Moses to the point of him being the voice himself. But he still had a backup. He connected him with someone that, if tough come to tough, he will speak for him. So I just wanted to bring that aspect in, um and also doing our homework, and it goes back in our African countries a lot, and it's coming in here through social media. We've been deceived many ways through social media, the scamming and the things like that, because our eyes are not fixed on what is necessary, what we
Mm,
need. It's like,
mm,
oh, this is happening, let me try it. But do you need it? Are you trying it because you really need this? or it's just a want, like a desperate want in your
Mm,
life. And then the devil uses that to drag us to places where we God did not plan for us to be.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing that I wrote here that I want to talk about, and that will probably conclude our first part on this conversation, and then we will pick up our next conversation from there. But the point that I wrote here, and I just looked at my notes, and that is honoring men,
Mm, mm,
honoring men. If you want to obtain relationships, honor
that's so powerful.
people. Sister Candace, there are some people, excuse me to say, who think everybody who is rich is evil, or everybody who is rich is a detriment to society. Meanwhile, these are the same people who want to be rich.
Oh
So
boy.
if you are not honoring the person at the level of success that you want to get to, how would they help you get there?
Mm.
Some people curse out every single politician they know. It
But
doesn't
you want
matter whether you are red, white, or blue, whatever the colors of our politics is, they will curse every single one of them. There are some people in the church who think that every powerful man of God has some occultic power or something.
mm,
But the question is, these are the same people in the church who are praying to be used by God.
powerfully.
And at the end of the day, who is more powerful? The occult or God, who made the seed that the marine spirits live in, and the places that these occult spirits live? And so honoring men is very important. And I wanted to make sure I talk about it because you
Yes.
don't you don't go around bashing every successful person you know, and then at the end of the day be
You want
trying to
this.
be successful yourself.
Mm,
How are you going to get there? There is something that I think is so interesting, and I don't know who told me this, but many years ago we were talking about the NFL, and the fact that they have all these owners do have their own, let's say, club, quote unquote.
okay.
And so if you are a player or a coach and you disrespect an owner, it becomes so difficult for you to get another decent job in
Mm,
the NFL.
mm,
Why is that so? Because you did not honor one of them. They see
wow.
it as a dishonor to all of them.
All of them. Mm,
And that is the attitude that I keep talking about, this media and internet and phone, because some people have nothing else to do but to sit on media platforms and bash successful people. If you don't understand the reason for someone's success, I think you are better off asking how they attain that success rather than just bash all successful people. And yes,
mm,
I understand sometimes some life experiences, you may have met a successful person who is very arrogant, very proud, and so they gave you a very bad experience. That does not mean, my dear listener, in any stretch of imagination, that all people at his or her level of success are that way.
mm,
So don't dishonor people at the level of success that you want to get to. If you
mm.
do that, you cannot obtain the help that you need. I wanted to make sure we talk about that before we
Yeah,
end today's section.
that's very powerful, Dr. Joe. That was really needed. So I thank God that you brought it up. And it's one of the things that I think is also affecting us from obtaining good relationship or successful relationship, because it has become, as sometimes I feel like it's more of entitlement.
Mm,
We are in a space of feeling that we deserve. Of course, you deserve it, but it's like we are entitled to certain things, and so when we do get them, when we get the opportunities, we don't know how to honor,
mm,
where it's coming from. So I feel like we have to get outside of the mindset of feeling entitled. Even you may be deserving of something, but still, we should get ourselves outside of that mindset because it hinders us from obtaining good and successful relationships. So we will wrap this up today. We'll wrap this up and then we'll dive into maintaining relationships. And, there's a gratitude aspect of how we can maintain relationships. So stay tuned. And Dr. Joe, I'll hand it over to you for you to close it off.
Yes, thank you so much, Sister Candace. And absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. And we will pick up on that entitlement when we talk about maintaining relationships. Actually, dear listeners, thank you so much for joining us today for the beginning of this all important conversation. And now I believe you are beginning to understand why we have taken so much time talking about relationships for success. Because, dear friends, it's not the fact that you don't have help available to you or you cannot get help. But there are some core things about our own lives, our own nature, the way we handle success, the way we handle failure, that the attitude that we put out, our superficial nature, that most of the time puts us in a place where we cannot get the help we need for our success. But we believe that by the end of our series of conversation on this, you will be able to not only obtain relationships that will impact your success in a positive way, but you will also be able to know how you can maintain those relationships when we pick up next week. Dear friends, I also want to bring to your attention because this is good and all, but remember, we have talked about the most important relationship that one ought to obtain in their life. Don't let another week go by and still think to yourself that you have time to do whatever you want before you build a relationship with Jesus. You know, yes, it may take years for Jesus to return, but that does not guarantee that you have years. And so, if today you are hearing us, I want you to realize the importance of you obtaining a relationship with Jesus, which is the first and foremost thing in life. Once you obtain this relationship, my dear listener, everything else, by the grace of God, will fall in place. God bless you so much for joining us this week. We look forward and are eager to bring you the concluding part of our conversation today. And we hope that you have been blessed just as we are being blessed. God bless you so much, and we will see you same time next week. Bye bye.